All right. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skip Allen. I am your host. This is kind of a little surprising. I thought we'd get a little bit bigger panel tonight, but I am not disappointed. I got the man who's really pushed Al Pacino on profiles the last couple weeks to be on. We had some technical difficulties. Mark Tordai could not make it. He was going to try to make it. Up until the last moment, he said he could not make it. So we're sorry that Mark could not make it. But we do have my good friend from down under, Cahal Thomas Coleman. Cahal, how are you doing this afternoon in Australia, evening here in the United
Doing,
States?
doing well. Hooah!
Hooah! That's right. That's one of our favorite lines from, you guessed it, folks, Al Pacino. And so we are not going to mess around. We're going to get right into the fire here, and we're going to start talking. Alicia, well, first of all, we're going to get Cahal's first blood and my first blood. And before we do that, we're going to read Alicia and Scott's first blood. And, well, go figure. It's The Godfather. And they had a little bit of a hard time remembering what their first blood was. And I know Cahal and myself had the same problem. Cahal, what was your first blood?
Okay, this is tough, but I think I narrowed it down to one of three films. It was either The Godfather, Dick Tracy, or Scent of a Woman. I can't remember. It might have been Dick Tracy as a kid. I haven't seen that movie in years.
But
Could have been,
19 was it 1987, right?
oh, I don't know. I think it was like 1990
80,
or something. Like on the edge there, 80s,
80
90s.
yeah, maybe it was 88, 89, something like that. I knew it was around the same time as Batman, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Haven't seen it in years.
I have it sitting right in this very pile of movies right here. Dick Tracy. I was trying to watch it. I did not get to it like I wanted to.
Yeah.
He is so good as the bad guy in that. Uh, Something Lips. What was his name? Uh,
Um,
God,
oh God.
I
Oh, Big
had
Boy Capri. Big Boy
Big Boy
Caprice. That's
Capri.
right.
Yeah, Big Boy Capri. He was so good in that. I did. What a good movie. I can't believe they did make more than just one Dick Tracy movie. That's kind
I
of shocking
think,
to me.
yeah, I think there was problems with the rights or something there.
Yeah, the rights.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I I had it narrowed down to two, but I believe I saw this one first before the other one. So I'm going to say also I agree with Scott and Alicia. I did a double feature when I was like 6 or 7 years old, really young, of The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. And then I know very shortly afterwards, I think I saw Dog Day Afternoon. I'm a little older than you, Cahal, so I definitely have a little bit of I saw quite a few of Al Pacino's movies when I was younger than most people probably saw them. So yeah, The Godfather Part One and Part Two were, I think, my first blood. Okay, we'll get into those a little bit later on this episode of Profiles. All right, now we're going to go into First Blood. I mean, not First Blood. We just did First Blood. Uh, Fast Five. Alicia and Scott had Scent of a Woman as their Fast Five, number five, and obviously Al Pacino has won the Oscar, the very first Oscar for his role as Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade. That to me is an absolute shocker. How he's got one Oscar and it's for that movie and not something different like back in the 70s or early 80s. Where does Scent of a Woman fall on your Fast Five, Cahal?
Ooh, I really debated this and I put it at five. I just thought, get his Oscar win in there. You know, I was debating whether to put Heat or Donnie Brasco in there as well instead. It's a few. He had such a full-on filmography. It's really difficult to put. put a film in there. I mean, there's And Justice for All. You got what do we got? Glengarry Glen Ross, Carlito's Way. It's just crazy. How do you fit something in there? So I went with Scent of a Woman for that speech at the end alone. I think it's just powerful.
Yeah, like that the tribunal there, whether
Mm.
whether the kid was going to get kicked out of school or not, and he goes and tries to help him out there, and that was a great speech near the end of that movie. But I'm wondering about whether he was actually blind, folded, or did they put any kind of like contacts on his eyes so he couldn't see, or was he just such a great actor that he looked like he was blind in the
Mm.
whole movie? I have Scent of a Woman at number 4 on my list, pretty much for the same reason you do. It's a great role for Al Pacino, but he did win his one Oscar, which is ridiculous that he's got one Oscar. I mean, I don't know how this guy can have only one Oscar in his entire career. He should have 3 by now, easily 3 Oscars by now. But yeah, that was he. I'm glad that I think him and Dustin Hoffman and were coming into their own later in the 80s and started to really give us some really good roles. Same thing with Robert De Niro. And then they showed that they aren't going anywhere. They're going to be a powerhouse for quite a long time. And Scent of a Woman has proven that Al Pacino's game, he never lost his game, and that was by that point he had been acting for 20 years, you know what I mean? So, but and a couple people in that movie have died actually. The guy that's in charge of the school and Philip Seymour Hoffman are both in that movie, and they both have died in the last year and a half. So that's kind of weird that
Mm.
those 2 actors were in that movie together, Son of a Woman, and they both have died. I can't think of the guy that was like the.
Oh
He
yeah,
was,
James Rebhorn, his name is.
yeah,
He's
there
a
you
good
go.
good character actor.
Yeah,
He was in
very
The
good.
Game, and he's in the Independence Day. He's in a lot of really good supporting parts, and he was in Homeland as well, I think.
Yeah, he's a really good actor. He had died just recently. And same thing for Philip Seymour Hoffman. But Al Pacino, I mean, I'll take a flamethrower to this place.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
I mean, that classic line, and that was fantastic. All right, so now we're gonna go to do you what was your right stuff? I mean, this
Ooh,
is
I
kind
got a
of hard.
bunch.
This was kind of hard for me because there was so many good right stuffs for Al Pacino,
Mm.
but I just had to go with a specific one, and I'll get to mine after you say what you want for yours, because I know this couldn't have been easy for you to do a right stuff either.
I got a bunch of them, but if I had to pick one, I'd go with The Godfather Part 2. The scene where Kay admits that she had an abortion and not a miscarriage, and she just sort of tells him, she doesn't want to be with him anymore, and then he just snaps. It just like perfectly encapsulates his character. He's just like kept all his anger, kept all his feelings inside, and he just snaps. It's just a perfect scene.
Yeah, I had. Give me another one. Since it's just you and me, and we're talking about Al Pacino, give me another one, Carl. I'm gonna allow it
Okay.
tonight.
I can give you a few if you want.
Give me one more.
Okay. Uh, the Scarface scene in the at the restaurant when he's just drunk and he's out with his wife and Manny, and he's just like, you need guys like me, to point your finger and say, there goes the bad guy, it's like, you guys, you lie, you hide, you lie. It's like me, I never lie. It's like, I always tell the truth, even when I lie. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's just
mean,
a brilliant scene.
I was just watching Scarface before doing this episode, trying to gear up on a couple of the movies before doing the episode of Profiles after show. I have 2 as well, and they're both from The Godfather. Um, and you know what's weird is we never did Alicia and Scott's, but we're going to do Alicia and Scott's after I do mine. We're going to change it up here for a second. I did the scene where he's talking to Fredo. Michael Corleone's talking to Fredo. He's like, you never go against the family, and then he shuts the door on Tess because that's part of the business. The wives and the kids and everybody, they're not involved in that part of it. So he shuts the door on Tess, and he's talking to Fredo, and he's like, Fredo, he's hugging Fredo, and he's like, you never go against the family. Obviously we know what happens later on. And then I also got, I think Scott said this one, but I still love it to this day. It's just like one of the greatest, probably one of the great scenes in movie history, where Michael, he sits down with the police chief and Saluzzo in the little Italian restaurant, and he does his first kill, which really turns him into the leader of the Corleone family when he does that. And those two scenes are just probably two of the greatest scenes in movie history, in my opinion. So those are both scenes out of the Godfather films. And because I forgot, I'm going to do it now. Alicia and Scott, of course, Alicia went with the Attica! Attica! Scene from Dog Day Afternoon, which, once again, another just powerful, powerful scene from Al Pacino, and a quote that is on one of the... the thing is, if you look at Al Pacino movies, and you look up the 100 greatest quotes of all time, Al Pacino's got about 5 or 6 of them from his movies on there. Not from one specific movie, but from a group of his movies, from obviously Scarface and Dog Day Afternoon and the Godfather movies, and some of these great performances that he's given. He's really gave us some memorable quotes. And of course, that's what Scott said too. Sitting at Kate Manlini's, and then Kate Manlini scene where De Niro and Pacino are sitting at, and they're talking to him, and Al Pacino goes, wife of some other brother, it doesn't matter. You're still going down. And I mean, thinking about De Niro and Pacino, and you have that scene, I think that everybody was waiting for. A scene in a movie with arguably, they're number 1 and number 2 on my list of the greatest actors of all time. I mean, I just guess it's because of the age that I grew up in. But De Niro was my number 1 and Pacino was my number 2. But I think it was just like I was salivating at the mouth, waiting for that scene, because it's like the 2 greatest actors in my personal life get to do a scene together, and it was that scene of them sitting at Kate Manlini's, and it didn't disappoint. Even though they were in The Godfather Part 2 together, they never had a scene together. And supposedly, go ahead.
So I was going to say it's like Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather finally getting that matchup.
Yeah. And
put off too long.
Supposedly Scorsese's got this movie called The Irishman, where Pacino, De Niro, and Pesci are all going to be in it together. But when is it coming out? I have no idea. I mean, I want to see these guys together. I mean, those 3 together is just magic, in my opinion.
Can you believe we haven't seen Pacino in a Scorsese film?
That is shocking. That is really, really shocking that Pacino has not done a single Scorsese film.
I mean, they're all New York, aren't they?
Say what?
They're all from New York, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all. I mean, all of them. Scorsese, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. They're all New Yorkers. I just don't understand how they haven't done something together. That's why I think they're doing The Irishman. When is it coming out? I have no idea. They may have changed the name even, for all I know. Okay, so that is our right stuff. We kind of went off the rails on right stuff a little bit, but that's fine. It's just the 2 of us. We got the screen in front of us, and everybody can watch the video when it's over. All right, we're going to go to Fast Five, number 4. Alicia and Scott had Scarface. Say hello to my little friend. Where do you have Scarface, my friend, on your Fast Five?
Yeah, I don't like that movie at all.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's my number two.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
I
gonna say,
love
I
it.
had a
It's just
feeling you were
like
kidding around.
it's kind of like borderline like guilty movie pleasure almost. Like it's like just so it just pushes the the excess of like the American dream kind of thing. The immigrant comes and rise to power. Just and he's just so invested in that part. Like he never breaks character. It's just brilliant.
Well, I'm going to get into my info and stuff like that a little bit later, but you're right about that. I mean, Offset, he was Tony Montana, and he because that was the kind of actor he was. There's all these different kinds of ways of acting, and he did the method style of acting where he became the person that he was acting as, and he became Tony Montana because he wanted to get the feel of who Tony Montana was off of set as long. But I mean, he just is. I mean, like I said, I just watched it before doing this episode of Profiles, and he just becomes Tony Montana in this movie. I mean, if you didn't know Al Pacino wasn't Cuban, that he was Italian American from New York, you would have thought he was Cuban. I mean, he played that Cuban American character, that dissident from Cuba coming over on a boat. And you knew at the beginning when these policemen and whoever was like interrogating him at the beginning of the movie, you knew this guy was going to be a major problem for them down the line. And it's funny, watching Scarface again, you see people like Robert Loggia and F. Murray Abraham, who would later go on to win the Oscar for Amadeus. I'm a big fan of F. Murray Abraham, but he just doesn't do a lot of things. So it's one of the it's F. Murray Abraham because he's a great actor. So I like to see him on screen. And Robert Loggia is another one. I liked him in Independence Day as well, and he was in Scarface. But I have Scarface number 5 on my. I flip flopped on Son of a Woman and Scarface with Alicia and Scott. I like Scarface a lot, but I had some other films that I liked more than that. So, and of course, Michelle Pfeiffer's in it. Was that her first role?
I'm not sure about that, but she's just one of them actors. I still feel like she's underrated. Like,
Oh,
don't you
Michelle
feel
Pfeiffer.
like she isn't going to do? I mean,
Yeah,
what a brilliant actress.
she was just so gorgeous in that movie. I mean, just wow. She was an
Mm.
absolute knockout in Scarface. And then, the thing I wanted to bring up too, Scarface is the precursor in a lot of these kinds of movies where, you see The Wolf of Wall Street and you see some of these other movies that come later, like 10, 20 years later or whatever. And a lot of them remind me of Scarface in a lot of ways, don't they?
Let's say so. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
Okay.
good point.
Now, Cahal, obviously we're going to talk about some of these other people in the other movies, but I'm going to, instead of doing the last detail, I do the player because I rather just concentrate on some of the characters. So if you have some players that aren't on your Fast Five, some characters that you want to bring up that aren't on your Fast Five that you'd like to talk about, this is the time to bring some of these guys up.
Well, my obvious players are Michael Corleone and Tony Montana, but
Sure.
you want me to talk about some of them or the fringe sort of characters then, I guess? What about Lefty from Donnie Brasco?
Wow.
I think he's brilliant in that role, and he probably should have got Oscar nominated because in the past when he played like the high level like thug, like high level like mafia don or the guy that rises to power, this guy's like never made any progress at all. Really, he's just like the low level hood that's just stuck in the same kind of neighborhood, same thing. He's never going to break out of it. Like he's loyal to his friends and that, but at the same time he's making no progress at all.
And
It's
he's got a
sad.
mentor, Donnie Brasco,
Mm.
and You know, he's got to kind of mentor this kid who he doesn't do anything, and you know he's trying to mentor this kid. And how do you mentor this other kid when you really haven't become
Mm.
anything? You know.
Mm. Yeah.
But what else you got for me?
Okay, let's see. About Glenn Ross. There's a good one. Ricky
Wow.
Roma.
Oh,
He could he tears Kevin Spacey to shreds in one scene, which is
oh my
brilliant.
God.
You think of Spacey now as like Frank Underwood in House of Cards, like, and just look at him get torn apart in that movie. It's like,
What a just
uh,
it was a play, and these guys
mm,
really made the play jump off the screen as a movie because it was just them. It was Jack Lemmon, Kevin Spacey, Alec Baldwin, Al Pacino in a room most of the time.
mm,
In one room, and it was just the dialogue. If the dialogue of that play doesn't transcend into the movie and jump off the screen like it does, that movie just falls flat and becomes a piece of garbage. But when you have those four people and how they play off each other in that movie, it obviously Al Pacino is just phenomenal in it, you know. And Jack Lemmon, I think, got nominated for an Oscar in it, didn't he?
not sure about that one.
I think somebody.
Kino,
I thought there were a couple of them got nominated for an Oscar in that. But
maybe you'd have to look it up.
yeah,
Jack
no, you're
Lemmon.
right.
Jack Lemmon's got to get his own show sometime as well. He's excellent.
Oh,
One of the
Jack
all-time
Lemmon.
greats.
That's sad that he died, but
Mm.
I love Jack Lemmon. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Odd Couple. I absolutely love it with him and Walter Matthau, and oh God,
The
Jimmy
Apartment.
Cagney,
I haven't seen
huh?
it. The Apartment. I haven't seen it, but I haven't recorded. I still haven't watched it.
Oh, Mr. Roberts. Oh my God, is Mr. Roberts so good? You've got to see Mr. Roberts if you
I'll
haven't
look
seen
into
it.
it. I
Oh
remember
God,
the China Syndrome. Remember that one?
oh God. Jack
That's a good
Lemmon
one.
had some really good movies in the '60s and '70s, but he just doesn't come up as one of the great actors. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because he kind of
Yeah.
got into that comedy shtick later on in his career.
Yeah.
You know. Give me another one. Give me another one.
Okay. How about Arthur Kirkland from And Justice for All?
That is so
Oh, you
weird.
haven't
I've
seen it, have
never
you?
seen that. I have not. I know of all the
Oh, see
courtroom
that movie.
dramas.
See it. Because
I will.
that's probably the last nomination he got in the 70s, like 79, I think. So he had like what, 5 nominations in the 70s? That's when he ruled. I mean, that movie's excellent. It just, it has like the dark sort of side of like the justice system, and then like there's like weird humor in it. You ever watch Arrested Development?
No, but I heard they were making a
Yeah.
movie, and so I guess I'll
Oh,
see the movie.
yeah. Well, Jeffrey Tambor from that is in it as well, and he's just like this kind of loony sort of character as
Well,
well. There's just some weird oddball characters.
I love courtroom dramas, Kahal.
Mm.
One of my favorite genres is courtroom dramas, and for whatever reason, I've never seen Injustice for All, and I'm right there with you. I definitely am gonna see that movie
Mm.
at some point. All I could think of when you say Injustice for All is Metallica. Uh, but no, obviously, once again, quotes out there, guys. You're out of order. You're out of order. You're out of order.
Mm.
I mean, yeah. Look up. Anybody watching this episode of Profiles on Apple, look up the 100 greatest movie quotes of all time, and I guarantee you, movies in quotes from Al Pacino, there's got to be like at least half a dozen
Mm.
just from how Al Pacino's movie, if not more, because the guy is a quote making machine. And that's part of what makes him such a great actor is he's memorable because of his quotes.
Mm.
Okay, now I'm going to take a couple. I'm going to take a couple from you on. Let me see here. Yeah, we mentioned it a little bit. I love his character in Dick Tracy a lot. What was his name again?
Big Boy Caprice.
He was such just a caricature on gangsters. That's what Dick Tracy is really, more or less a
Mm.
character on gangsters in the 1920s and so forth. But he was such a caricature on himself in Dick Tracy. That's what's funny. So it was like, oh, I'm making fun of myself while playing this character, Big Boy Caprice, you know. And I just want to bring up Phil Spector, Jack Kevorkian, two of his better roles that nobody has seen unless you watch HBO and you like HBO dramas. He is fantastic in both of those as Jack Kevorkian, the Doctor of Death, and Phil Spector, the kooky lawyer who gets wrapped up in his own trial, and he wears these crazy wigs and stuff. You've seen the Phil Spector trial. He's got some of the craziest wigs and hairstyles. That I guess he's just trying to. He does it just to stand out. He wants to be like this, like, oh, this is a big farce, so let me wear this crazy wig or something. But he is fantastic opposite Dame Helen Mirren and Phil Spector, and John Goodman and Jack Kevorkian. You Don't Know Jack. And another one, I think we hear a lot. If you out there watch AMC Movie Talk, we hear a lot. John Campion talking about a lot is Shylock from The Merchant of Venice. I mean, Shakespeare is very hard to portray on the big screen. When you try to take the dialogue from Shakespeare, Hamlet, or Othello, or any of these kinds of movies, it's very difficult dialogue. And by watching him as the Merchant of Venice, Shylock, you like, wow, this guy can do anything. That is the movie when he played Shylock and he was uttering that all that Shakespeare dialogue. You're like, wow, can this guy do no wrong? You know, I mean, he's even doing Shakespeare. And then Looking for Richard was the movie he did on his own, a small little movie. What a really good little indie that Al Pacino did on his own. That is really Richard, King Richard, is the he like riding around on a horse and stuff. But all right, so now we're gonna go to Alicia Scott's Fast Five, number 3, and it was Serpico. Serpico was made for $3 million and made $30 million for the time. That was I think a 300% markup on that. $3 million to $30 million. It was a 10% markup. I don't know. I'm not that good with math. But Serpico, one of my favorite Al Pacino roles. Where does this lie on your Fast Five, Call?
My number 4.
Number 4.
Yeah, I have to watch this movie again. I have it on DVD. I've seen it a bunch of times, but I have to get a refresher on it. It's just like, if you think about it, like the two directors in the 70s that really had an impact on his career, probably Coppola and Sidney Lumet. And the two Lumet films have really like helped, consolidate his place as one of the best actors. Because I think Serpico, like, he's just this honest cop, just fighting the system, the corruption around him and all of that, and it's just everyone around him is just dirty, he's like this lone voice amongst it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a later movie, later where directed by I think Michael Mann, or was it Ridley Scott with Denzel Washington, American Gangster, where Russell Crowe plays I believe
Richie Roberts.
Yeah, which is based on Serpico is based on that story basically. It's a very similar story where you have this cop that was just so good he wouldn't even take a bag of money out of a criminal's car. He had a bag of money and he wouldn't even take the money. Well, Frank Serpico was such a good cop. He wouldn't do wrong. He wouldn't take bribes. He wouldn't. And all those other guys like, what the hell, man? Why don't you take the money? Take the money. Take it. Be like the rest of us. And no, he wasn't. He wasn't like that. And of course, the very first scene, he just gets shot in the face in the very beginning of the movie. But Sidney Lumet going off on Sidney Lumet. One of my absolute favorites is 12 Angry Men. The guy has made so many great The Verdict with Paul Newman a few years later. He seems to have the courtroom drama down, doesn't he, Sidney Lumet? I mean,
he's really good with the social messages and all that. Just like fighting injustice and all that, and just a real trailblazer, I think.
Yeah, everybody, and the cops are all corrupt in the 70s, and so they really played up on that in Serpico as well, and the hair. Part of some of it's funny about Al Pacino's roles too is he's got some of the craziest hair. Like he's got this military hair in Son of a Woman. He's got this freaking locks forever in Serpico, and then he's got the Tony Montana hair. I mean, he's got some crazy haircuts, and it tells you all the different movies he's been in and how far back he goes because he's got some wild hair going back to some of those roles in the 70s. But I had Serpico at number 3 as well on my Fast Five, and I mean I just absolutely love this movie. It's such an underrated classic. Definitely, if you haven't seen Serpico, you should see this movie. And obviously, Carl and I both love it. Okay, now we're going to go to some trivia, some last details, some notes, anything you might have that you want to bring up right now. We have plenty of time just to give me a bunch of good anecdotes here.
Well, I watched 2 movies of Pacino's that I hadn't seen last week. That was Scarecrow and The Merchant of Venice. And I thought Scarecrow was interesting, the dynamic between him and Gene Hackman. And The Merchant of Venice, he clearly stole the movie. Like when he was on screen, that movie had a whole different level of energy. Yeah, and I thought we should probably just mention another Michael Mann film, The Insider. I watched that again, and it's like he's excellent in that too. He really helped Russell Crowe's performance as well. Just when you're playing off a good actor, like just sort of people raise their game. I think that's what. Like Russell Crowe was always a good actor, but this is for the first Oscar nomination he got. This put him on the map globally because he'd already done films in Australia. Like he'd done what do you call it? L.A. Confidential and that a few years before that. That really put him on the thing globally. But he'd done Australian films and really he won a few awards here before he went overseas. So, but in The Insider, Al Pacino helped push him to another level, I feel.
No, I'm right with you. Romper Stomper was a fantastic movie, and Virtuosity, where he worked with Denzel for the first time, where he plays like this computer virus guy, where he was really out there, Russell Crowe. No, The Insider, Lowell Bergman. It's 60 Minutes. That's when 60 Minutes was really at its peak. Is when this whole story of The Insider came about, and now it's through the internet. You hear these Joseph Snowden stories and all these breaking things on the internet. But back then it was TV magazine. It's the news magazines. And 60 Minutes really was at the top of their game. Some of the things that 60 Minutes did was just groundbreaking, and that was a groundbreaking story, back then. And it was oh wow, he was fantastic as Lowell Bergman in that. But do you have any trivia, any like notes, anecdotes, or anything?
I couldn't really find any that we hadn't already mentioned on the show. Like he was in line to play Han Solo at one point.
That's come on. That's crazy. I can't even imagine that.
Well.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that. All right, well, I'll read some of the notes that I have then. He went to the actor's studio, and he learned under Lee Strasberg, which is one of the famous acting coaches in the method acting way, where you become the character, you become what they are. You when you're not on screen, you still you're in character the whole entire time, and that's one of those interesting ways of acting. But obviously it's worked for Al Pacino. Um, his first big role was in The Godfather. I mean, he had done a couple small little bitty things before that, but The Godfather was his first big role. Won his first Oscar for Scent of a Woman. We all know that. He's been nominated for 7 Oscars, and he's only won once. That's
I think it was eight, wasn't it?
8. All right, you say 8. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it was
Hooah!
best. Oh yeah, you're right. 7 best actor and 1 supporting, I think.
Oh,
Oh
that's how I
no,
missed it. I must have missed
2.
it.
There'll be 2 supporting. Actually. No, yeah.
Um,
Go ahead.
hoo- Hooah! Um, that comes from legend. I guess he met with a real live lieutenant colonel guy, and the guy every time he would talk, he would say "hooah." That's a Marines. That's a thing from the Marines.
Hoorah!
Yeah. So he got that from Son of a Woman. He got that from the real guy, general or whatever who he met with. Um, Let me see. One shot in Scarface was shot by Steven Spielberg
Mm,
at the end there at the big gunfight. I wonder which one it was. That
yeah.
now, watching profiles now, I was looking. I said, "No, don't tell me he did the classic one, the best part of the whole freaking thing. That would be crazy if it was, right? That's
Yeah. Uh,
like. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I got the DVD and the Blu-ray of that, and so I've watched the special features and all that, so I knew that already about Spielberg being on set.
Yeah.
And it's just
Well,
like, yeah, I can't remember what shot it was.
well, I know that Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez like to do that. They'll like
Mm,
direct one scene in one of their each other's movies and stuff like that. So just to keep it fresh and give them, just bring your buddy into your movie or whatever,
mm.
but I didn't know back then that Spielberg was doing that kind of stuff. Um, Alec Baldwin, um, 65-page thesis on Al Pacino, and then of course he would later go on and act with him in Glengarry Glen Ross. I mean, it sounds like something you would do, a 65-page thesis on Al Pacino. I mean, can you write that much about Al Pacino, Carl? Do you think?
Probably, but to find the time and motivation to do it. Another thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm a blogger and and whatnot, and just to write 2,300 words was like rough for me. And I wrote 800 words in an article the other day, and that wasn't easy. But 65 pages. I mean, wow, that is kind of shocking.
You need you'd need Pacino's energy to do it.
Oh yeah, or about 5 Red Bulls, one or the other.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess when Brian De Palma, which I wasn't going to bring him up just now, but I'm going to bring him up. I got on my De Palma T-shirt. Uh, he took Scarface, the PG version of Scarface, to the review board so he could get it, so they would accept it. And then when the movie came out, he released the R-rated version. I wonder if he got in trouble for that. That is, to me, that is some low-handedness on his part. But hey, if you want to get the best version of a movie out to theaters, hey, give them the crappy version and put the real version out in theaters.
Yeah.
I wonder if Scorsese did that with Wolf of Wall Street, because that movie was off the chain. Let me see. The powder baby laxative they used as cocaine from Scarface. I guess he's still got some of that in his nose. Man, that has to suck, knowing that you got stuff in your nose that you can't get out. Ugh,
Ah.
that's sick. Just thinking about it, isn't it? And obviously the bank in Dog Day Afternoon, First Brooklyn Bank. That was the trivia question that Alicia had to answer. Of course, Scott winked, so we all knew what the answer was when he winked, because he likes to give Alicia the answers. to the trivia questions. She's not that good at trivia. All right, let's go with that. We just talked about Dog Day Afternoon. We were going to go to
Oh, we
Alicia and
talked about
Scott.
Serpico. We haven't talked
No,
about Dog Day Afternoon,
no,
have we?
but I'm saying the trivia. After
Oh,
my
okay.
last big
Sorry.
notes that we just talked about.
Whoops.
So that's all right. Alicia and Scott's Fast Five number 2 was Dog Day Afternoon. And in my notes, instead of writing down Dog Day Afternoon, you know what I wrote down? I wrote down Attica. Of all things, I wrote down Attica. So Dog Day Afternoon. I'm sure you have this on your Fast Five call.
It's my number 3.
Number 3.
My my Fast Five is very similar to Scott and Alicia's, just in slightly different order. Yeah, Dog Day Afternoon's one of the movies that's just like, there's this character, Sonny Wortzik, that's just way out of his depth. You know, he just gets into this thing and it just becomes a circus. And then you see, like, as things go on later on and everything's revealed why he's doing it and all of that. Like, it's very, like, uh, cutting edge sort of movie, you know what I mean? Like,
No, it really
I mean,
was. It really was. But the thing is, the reason why he does it, to me, makes the whole thing fall flat. I mean, you get this whole thing, this whole bank heist, and this whole police charade going on with the police, and the whole, like you said, circus, and Brian Dennehy, and him and Brian Dennehy are going back and forth and stuff like that. And it's like, the reason why he does it, I mean, is so stupid. But the movie itself is still great up until the reveal of why he does it. He wants to get a sex change operation. Really? I mean, come on. I mean,
that
all
was
right.
funny.
I mean, what is this,
Great.
Bruce Jenner we got on our hands here?
Yeah, it's one of those movies. It's like the truth is, what is that? Stranger than fiction. You know?
Yeah, the truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, that's you can't come up with this stuff. I mean, whoever came up with that, I mean, it's ridiculous. Now, was Dog Day Afternoon based on a true story?
I think so. I don't know the full. I think it was, yeah. But
You know, and just to
I'm
bring
not
up,
90% sure.
yeah, oh, okay. Well, just to bring up, you know, Pacino's worked with John Cazale 3 times. Dog Day Afternoon
Mm.
and the two Godfather films, and obviously we did Meryl Streep a couple weeks ago. I did with Leanne and Rachel, and we talked about the Deer Hunter with John Cazale as well. And then when we did, who was it that we did the conversation? Coppola. We
Couple of,
talked about the conversation. So we basically reviewed all 5 of John Cazale's movies in the last couple of months because all these great actors and directors that he has worked with. So I just wanted to mention John Cazale. And if you don't, there's a John Cazale documentary out. I highly recommend you see that documentary. It is a
I'll check it out.
fantastic. Say that again.
I'll definitely check it out. Watched, I saw a thing for it somewhere. I'll have to check it out.
Very, very good. I mean, you know, but Dog Day Afternoon, yeah, what a crazy, crazy movie that was. As a kid, I saw it. Like I said, I saw it. I think the same day as Godfather and Godfather Part 2, and obviously I like Godfather and Godfather Part 2 better. And it took me a while to really appreciate Dog Day Afternoon. As I got older, I appreciated it more, but as a kid, I didn't like it as much. But all right, now, do you have any movies that are on your honorable mentions or on your Fast Five that Scott and Alicia did not have on their Fast Five that you'd like to bring up right now? Now is the
Okay.
chance.
Okay. How about Insomnia? Christopher Nolan. That was another powerful performance. Let's see. We got Carlito's Way, of course, reteaming with Brian De Palma. It's almost like a bizarro sequel to Scarface, isn't it? Like if his life went a different way, kind of thing. It's a very sort of similar sort of thing. Let's see what else we got. Frankie and Johnny. That's another one.
Wow, what a classic.
Reteaming with Michelle Pfeiffer. That's another weird sequel to Scarface.
What
Get
a
another laugh
classic,
later.
though. Frankie and Johnny is
Yeah.
so good.
It is very good. Was it Gary Marshall? I think did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really good. And what was the other one I was gonna say? Well, Devil's Advocate. That's kind of a fun movie. You know, you look at these actors, like some of the best actors of all time have played the devil. Like, you know, Pacino, De Niro's played him. Jack Nicholson. Like, it's the role. It's one of the roles you can just let loose with, and he just does. It's
Oh
fun.
my God. I think if you think of the devil, you don't think of Al Pacino. But when he plays the devil,
Yeah.
it's just like one of his greatest roles of all time. I mean, this is Pacino when he's playing the devil, and you completely buy it. You completely buy him as the devil. I
Yeah.
mean, well,
The Fury.
is that it? Is that all you got?
So I got. Oh yeah. How about Any Given Sunday? I watched that again. I mean, the movie's a bit, you know, all over the place, but he's excellent in it. The speech at the end, he's like, "Fight for that inch," you know. It's like,
No, no.
yeah,
I mean, the speech at the end about the last inch and so forth was a really good speech.
yeah,
I think I put Any Given Sunday as that like number 10 on my favorite football movies of all time or something
mm,
like that. That's how far back Any Given
yeah.
Sunday is on my favorite football movies.
It's
So
kind
that
of a,
tells you how much I like Any Given Sunday. Not that much. It's not one of my favorite football movies, but he, like everything he's in, brings
mm,
a gravitas to the role of a head football coach. He's been in a race car driver. He's been a race car driver, and he's been a football coach. I think those are the only two sports movies he's been in. Bobby Deerfield, he was in way back in the
ooh, I wanted to
'70s.
watch that, but I couldn't get hold of that.
Yeah, he
Have you
was a
seen
race
it?
car driver. Yeah, it was good. It's not one of the better race car movies either, but
Mm,
it's good. I mean, the crashing, the race car crashing stuff is kind of crazy.
mm,
The sound is really crazy loud and crazy. I mean, I keep saying crazy, but out there, yeah, Bobby Deerfield, and he played a football coach. So he's only really been in two sports movies. You think Al Pacino might have been in more sports movies, but no.
mm.
Um, all right, well, I got a few on mine. I got Donnie Brasco, Dick Tracy, Heat, and I know Alicia and Scott did not say Carlito's Way, so I'm going to say Carlito's Way as well. And I did, uh, and I did not have. Oh, you know what? That's crazy. I had Serpico at 2 and Carlito's Way at 3, and I did not have Dog Day Afternoon on my Fast Five. So Dog Day Afternoon, we talked a lot about that. I did not have that on my Fast Five. Um, but Dick Tracy, I said that before. Heat, you brought it up, and Scott brought it up on profiles. Very just fantastic movie. But you only have 5 spots on your Fast Five, and I think if I would have had to put a 6 or a 6A and a 6B, it would probably be Dog Day Afternoon and Heat. I mean, I don't think I could have choose which one of those I would have put it at 6, but I really, really love the cast and just the acting opposite of each other. This time, what Al Pacino was the good guy, and De Niro was the bad guy in Heat.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that's what I have for extras, and we 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 try to bring. I try to get my panelists to bring up as many of the movies of the person we're talking about, so people watching can get to get to go out and see all these movies, get them on DVD, Blu-ray, so forth, whatnot, and see them on AMC or Turner Classic Movies or something. Watch some of these movies. There's a lot of classics by Al Pacino. His filmography is fantastic. All right, so now we're going to get into. I don't think it's that much of a secret here. The Godfather Part 2 was Scott and Alicia's Fast Five number 1. And I will give you the benefit of the doubt here, call if you have like a tie. So
Yeah, I've got
where does the Godfather Part 2 fall in your Fast Five?
number one all the way. Number one. I know Scott and Alicia did the sort of Godfather with it as well. So I sort of did the same thing, Godfather 1 and 2 together, because it feels like it's the Michael Corleone journey. So we'll just stick with that. Yeah, Godfather 2 is just like he should have won an Oscar for that movie. I can't understand why he did not win an Oscar for that. That was just like one of the all-time greatest performances. This guy is just so calculated, in his mind. He's like everyone's trying to take him out, but he has to like figure things out, and he's got that. He's just keeping that rage inside, though. He's all about his family, protecting his family legacy. That's all it's all about.
Yeah, I mean,
One of the all-time
Michael.
greats.
I mean, if you think of probably the top five greatest movie characters of all time, I think, or even the top 10 greatest film characters of all time, I think you could put Michael Corleone as probably easily in the top five or top 10 movie characters of all time. I mean, Godfather is like on so many people's list of the greatest movie of all time, up there with like Citizen Kane and Vertigo and movies like that, and those are absolute classics. You know what I mean? And to put the Godfather and the Godfather stands the test of time. This movie is like a 40-something-year-old movie. I think 72, and Godfather Part 2 came out in 74. So it's basically a 40-something-year-old movie, and it still stands the test of time, and it really has defined the gangster genre of films. Every movie that has come after it has mimicked, mocked, tried to copy in some way, some form, The Godfather or The Godfather Part 2. Obviously, I will not bring up The Godfather Part 3 here. I did not like it. I don't think it's a very good movie. It got a lot of Oscar nominations. Why? I have no idea. It was not that good compared to the other two movies.
Mm.
And recently, talk has come. I mean, an interview I think I read or I heard that Coppola was really bandying about the idea of doing a Godfather Part 4. Now,
Let it go. Let it go.
I was
Just
gonna
when I
say,
thought I was out, they pull me back in.
there we go. I knew I could get it in. I get it out of you, but that was. I mean, that was a classic line in Godfather Part 3. Once another quote from Pacino that is so transcendent. When I think I'm out, they try to drag me back in. I mean, how can you go wrong? How many times does Pacino's quotes do we use in like our everyday language and how we talk and how we, Casablanca is my favorite movie of all time. But how much of Casablanca's quotes have been used in so much of our dialogue and how we talk? Same thing with Pacino quotes. Yeah, I have Godfather Part 2 as number one on my Fast Five as well. I think it's a tie. It's that and The Godfather are my second favorite movies, second and third favorite movies of all time. So I absolutely love The Godfather. I owe a lot to a good friend of mine who got me watching all these kinds of gangster movies and really told me a lot about some of the things in The Godfather that I didn't know when I was watching the movie. You watch the movies, you think, wow, this movie's great. You love the movie, you love the scenes and so on. But friends of mine who would tell me about gangsters in Chicago and New York, and I learned a lot about the gangsters from my one friend. And I only live like 25 minutes from a gentleman. He only lives 25 minutes from me. His name is Johnny Mutino, and he uttered the line. He was part of this one scene in The Godfather called "Leave the body, take the cannolis," and I got a bumper sticker said "Leave the body and take the cannolis."
Leave the gun,
Mutino,
take the cannoli. That's what it was.
leave the gun, and take the cannolis. My bad, I got that wrong. See, I'm trying to use a quote and I screwed it up. Leave the gun, take the cannolis. Yeah, I have a bumper sticker that says that. So you know how popular that line was from The Godfather. But Al Pacino is just so phenomenal. I wish we would have had more people to talk about this great filmmaker, this great actor, I should say, and filmmaker. Looking for Richard, he made on his own. He actually made that. He directed and starred in Looking for Richard. But he's done TV work. He's done all kinds of different things, and that's why Al Pacino is probably my number two. I mean, him and De Niro on my list are like neck and neck for 1 and 2. I just go with De Niro because I like some of his roles a little bit better than most of Al Pacino's roles. But I really love. I mean, you can't go wrong with so many of Al Pacino's roles. Any last words before we head out the door, Cahal?
Yeah, avoid Righteous Kill at all costs. Bad movie.
Nah, what are you gonna do? Even the great actors like Al Pacino and De Niro and Dustin Hoffman and Nicholson and Brando have made bombs. I mean, I don't think Righteous Kill's all that bad, my opinion. But hey, who am I to say? But okay, this brings us to the end of the Al Pacino Profiles After Show. Where can people find you out in the internet, Mr. Cahal Thomas Coleman?
You can find me at Cahal T. Coleman on Facebook or on Twitter at CTC82.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for the brackets. People, if you want to know who was basically responsible for most of the brackets on the Profiles with Malone and Mance Facebook page, you're looking at him right there. That man right there, Mr. Cahal Thomas Coleman, basically took my outline of what I thought we should do and ran with it. He did all the photos. He did a lot of the stuff. And obviously, our friend Steve Zinu, otherwise known as Justin Bass, who runs the brackets. Thank you once again for just being with us and going off with the brackets with Al Pacino, and obviously it came down to Corleone and Scarface. Even though we tried to make it somebody else get in there, but that's basically what it ended up being.
There was a power struggle, Dan. There was a power struggle. It made you an offer you couldn't refuse.
We made an offer we couldn't refuse. We could not get some of these other oddball characters into the brackets, but we tried the best we could, and it came down to Corleone and Scarface, and I think Michael Corleone, rightfully so, won the brackets this week. We are taking a week off because I don't think we're going to do anything next week. They're doing David Lynch. I don't think we're going to get anybody that wants to do David Lynch. If you do want to do David Lynch and you want to be on the Profiles After Show, contact me, Dan Skip Allen, on Facebook. That's who you need to talk to be on an episode of the Profiles After Show. For my friend Cahal Thomas Coleman and myself, you can find me at Facebook under my name, Dan Skip Allen, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. Also, I do another show called The Best Damn Movie Show with my co-host Vinny LaSpada. And that is it. We will see you next time. Bye.
Hooah!
Hooah!